gentlemen, to this week's edition of the Midweek Mailbag, where I am able to get you, the viewer, actively involved in crafting an episode and what I cover for a given show. So if you don't know yet how to reach out, you can reach out to me mainly on social media through Instagram, but I do also have a Facebook and Blue Sky. So please make sure to follow me on socials, or you can email me at tjacksunpacks@gmail.com. Now, in this midweek mailbag, we are going to be covering the New York City mayoral race. We have a huge update with that, particularly for people like me who are progressives, and those of you on the left-wing political spectrum. We have some huge news with that. We have Trump administration kind of losing a bit of control. So both J.D. Vance and Donald Trump needing censoring moments this week. I'm going to give you guys an update on Israel and what's happening now in Iran. And then Gavin Newsom Clapbacks. So I had a viewer send me some Gavin Newsom responses to some things that have come out of right-wing Republican spaces. So we're going to have a little laugh at some of those. And then I'm going to finish, guys, with a new updated Democratic presidential candidate power ranking. So we're going to fast forward, to 2028. And I will tell you as of now who I think it's most likely, or who is most likely to get the Democratic nomination. So let's jump into the New York City mayoral race. We have Zohran Wins with his surprising victory in New York City. So Mandani is a progressive who was on the Democratic ticket for New York City, as I've said. He would be that crazy left lunatic, guys, that mainstream media always talks about, or like Fox News always talks about. And we're going to talk about the crazy left-wing lunatic stuff in a second when we look at Trump's response. But he overcame, and why this is such a big story is not only is it New York City, right, the most important city in the United States, but he overcame the traditional Democratic establishment and that representation in Andrew Cuomo and his large dollar donors in order to win the nomination. Now, there were some rumors that Andrew Cuomo was going to run, even from losing the Democratic primary here, and run as an independent. But most recent news, what I was able to read is this is not. He's changing his mind because his donors are dropping out. So Cuomo seems to be completely done with this race at this point, and it looks like Mandani is going to be the Democratic nominee for New York City mayor. Now, in terms of how the votes broke down, ladies and gentlemen, he was very strong. So Mandani was very strong with young working class voters, whereas Cuomo got huge margins with richer voters. Now, looking at things, guys, from a more macro perspective. So I'm trying to think about things across the country and in upcoming elections. This should be yet another piece of evidence for the Democratic Party to move further to the left. Your most popular politicians that you guys have are Bernie Sanders and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, both which would be considered incredibly far left in this country. And now we have the most powerful city in the United States just now deciding to nominate a Democratic, socialist, progressive, leftist, whatever you want to call it, for mayor. Overall, Republicans in this administration specifically, they leave so many political and strategic openings if the Democrats want to take it. But then again, guys, the reality, sadly, is most Democrats are beholden to the same corporations and billionaires that Republicans are beholden to. And they are bought off, and therefore they work for their corporate donors, right? Not for the people who actually voted for them and got them in office. But what I will say is establishment Democrats who take large donations should be pretty worried with these results, which makes me honestly gleeful on the inside, because you should not be serving corporations. Should be serving the American workers and the people and the voters who actually elect you into office. But heading into the midterms is going to be pretty scary for some establishment Democrats, particularly if they're primaried from people from the left. The Democratic Party, guys, is still underwater. They're very unfavorable, not only from Republicans, which is normal, but from Democratic voters too. They're incredibly underwater. So this could be new momentum building, which is honestly great to see. Now, Trump was obviously not silent during this whole mayoral election, and he went to Truth Social to throw a temper tantrum. So this is what he said. You guys can see it on the screen now. It's finally happened. The Democrats have crossed the line. Zohran Mamdani, a 100% communist lunatic, has just won the Democratic primary and is on his way to becoming mayor. We've had radical leftists before, but this is getting a little ridiculous. He looks terrible. You should look in a mirror, buddy. His voice is grating. He's not very smart, but okay. He's got AOC plus 3 dummies all backing him, and even our great Palestinian. Why is being a Palestinian a negative thing, by the way? It seems like he's using it for some reason as a slur when... Okay, anyways, our great Palestinian senator crying Chuck Schumer is groveling over him. Yes, this is a big moment in the history of our country. Once again, littered with random capitalizations and nonsense. So he spends, guys, an insane amount of time of posting on social media. So that's our tax dollars at work. And what we elected him for, I guess, was to have unhinged social media rants and play golf. So fantastic. That's our president of the United States. Now, some of these crazy leftist policies, you may be thinking, what are these insane things they're talking about? Well, I'm going to start by playing a Fox News clip trying to demonize some of these policies before breaking down a more comprehensive list.
This candidate, Democratic Socialist, he wants to freeze the rent. He wants city-run grocery stores, social workers to replace the police because that's going to help. He wants $60 billion of debt fund for affordable housing. He wants free buses, no cost for childcare, baby baskets for newborn, and a $30 minimum wage. How can someone vote for this?
So guys, this boogeyman, this scary leftist lunatic, right, wants to do some of the following. Rent freezes, so, people don't go homeless. Provide baby baskets for newborns. Make buses faster and free. Universal free childcare. Increasing corporate taxes and taxes on the wealthy, and increasing minimum wage to $30 an hour, which, guys, if you have ever lived in New York City, $30 an hour to live in New York City and to work in New York City is by no means an overpay whatsoever. So overall, and I really want you guys to listen to this, we have to stop falling for, and we also need to push back. So not just silently, sitting there and understanding it's nonsense, but we also need to push back on the right wing and often just in general mainstream media framing of far left political figures. Do any of those policies, guys, rent freezing, baskets to newborn, free childcare, making buses better and free, increasing taxes on the rich, or increasing minimum wage, are those really insane, lunatic, radical ideas to you? Like, honestly. And more importantly, would these policies not help maybe you, maybe someone you love, your community at large, maybe someone you don't know who's struggling? Would this not help them live better lives? What is ultimately happening, guys, is the top 1% who are exploiting our labor and reaping disproportionate benefits from our work want you and me to believe that these left-wing ideas are radical so they can continue avoiding paying their fair share and squeezing all of the possible hours of work out of us without proper compensation. That is what the propaganda is, okay? That's what the right wing and mainstream media will feed you to believe that to be true. When the reality is, guys, we have the most resources in the world to be doing much, much, much better than we are doing for the average American, right? For instance, you give birth in this country, you are given the baby, you're pushed out, you may or may not get leave. It purely depends on what you do for a career, and it's just kind of good luck. Here is a tiny child tax credit that covers a small sliver of what it actually costs to raise a newborn, and you will get that once every tax season, right? We do not use our tax money efficiently to help the average person in this country. Unfortunately, guys, we live in a system, kind of mentioned this a second ago, where a majority of our elected representatives service the rich and live in that elitist bubble, so they don't even understand what we're going for. And more kind of nefariously, a lot of them don't care, and they just don't really mind not serving their voters whatsoever, as long as it is beneficial to them. Now, back to the positives, guys, is Zohran does end up winning mayor, which in New York City, it is very, very likely. It would be shocking for Republicans somehow on the other side to win mayor in New York City. But if he's actually able to get these policies in place, New York City, guys, could serve as a fishbowl, for nationwide change and increased left-wing policies, state by state and potentially at the federal level. So we'll see how this goes. But very monumental moment for left-wing ideology in the United States of America. Now, Trump could, moving back to Trump here, he wasn't just losing it on this New York City primary, but he had another viral moment this week when he dropped the F-bomb on live TV in reference to the Israel-Iran conflict. So here is that video now.
You know what? We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing. Do you understand that?
To provide a little context in case that was the first time you guys are seeing this, Trump was upset that both Israel and Iran broke the ceasefire deal that they had agreed to, or had, seemingly agreed to. But honestly, guys, based on the wording of the ceasefire and what I actually read, it's unclear if they actually did break the ceasefire and rather continued attacks before the ceasefire was actually in effect. So there is some contention about that. But in any case, I think him losing his cool like this, and, the young people call this crashing out, is a bit of a glimpse into a grown man who is unable to control his temper. And I think it gets a little glimpse too also, guys, into how he acts more so behind the scenes when he doesn't get his way. Because he's essentially throwing a temper tantrum because they did not listen to him, or at least he thinks that they did not listen to him in this case. And then moving forward, guys, I guess, this greenlit the idea of just being vulgar in this administration, and it was all cool and edgy because J.D. Vance, Vice President J.D. Vance, followed up Trump's F-bomb by throwing up a middle finger during a speech in Ohio.
In Washington, D.C., they have this thing where I think it means we're number one in Washington, D.C., but all the pink-haired people throw up this sign, and I think, that means we're number one, right? I choose to take that as that symbol in Washington.
So as you guys may or may not know, but after I, shoot these, a little peek behind the curtain, I have to go and then edit it. I'm kind of a one-man show here, basically, so it takes a while to get all this up and running. But I did not think my work time would be increased from having to do censure edits due to inappropriate language or conduct from the president and the vice president of the United States in the same week. But I guess that's where we have fallen to in the United States with our political theater in 2025. In general, guys, I miss the day where we expected better, not worse behavior from our elected lawmakers and those with the most power in society. We seem to rightfully be appalled if in that almost any other profession other than maybe entertainment, sports in some cases, but in almost any other profession, if you see people behaving the way our elected representatives, many of them do behave, you would be appalled. If your own children, for many of you, I would argue, would act in the way we are seeing some of the people in this specific administration are acting, you would be appalled. If we behaved the way they did at our workplace, we would be fired immediately. But ultimately, guys, we cannot let their ridiculous antics and the behavior distract us from holding them accountable for solving the actual issues that me and you and the average American face on a daily basis. So childcare is still insanely expensive. Rent is still unaffordable for many people across the country. Houses are a pipe dream for millions of young people looking for a place to really settle down. And we are drowning in trillions of dollars of student debt and a sea of guns. So pick one of those, pick a list of other issues, and actually do something that helps the average American. That is the purpose. It's what some of this administration was promising, right? Lower cost, right? Like making things affordable again. We are yet to truly see that. All right, transitioning forward now, guys, we are going to take a look at the latest on Israel and Iran based on the latest reports here. So this is at the time of recording on Thursday morning. Senate is supposed to receive a briefing later today, so there may be more information coming out by the time that this is released. But the defense secretary, who once again, guys, should have been removed, he texted top secret information out. But once again, a lack of accountability for those at the top. But Pete Hegseth provided some updates, but he did fall short as of this morning of providing evidence that Iran's nuclear program was actually fully obliterated in the way Trump concluded or Trump stated. And that seems to be the main argument, guys, that I'm seeing in mainstream media. There is a debate over the success of the mission and whether or not, whether or not the entire nuclear program was destroyed or quote unquote, like I said, obliterated or not. Imagery that I've seen in U.S. intelligence itself contradicts the level of success of the attack. So, it is not obliterated according to certain intelligence agencies within the borders. And according to certain imagery, guys, you can see, and you guys can find this, it's widely available, but it looks like the 3 areas that were attacked were not as damaged as they claim. And we know, guys, Trump is also just a well-known liar. But my concern, and this is just kind of the mainstream media infrastructure and how it works, they're debating the success of the mission rather than debating why in the world did we bomb an independent nation in the first place when there's no evidence of them trying to develop a nuclear weapon and they were doing nothing to harm or interact with the United States whatsoever. Israel, guys, is actually the one with nuclear weapons and secret nuclear programs, but we just choose to bomb an independent nation on behalf of another country due to propaganda, I guess, because Iran, to Bibi Netanyahu's calculations, has been, producing nuclear weaponry for 30 years and has been on the cusp of getting it now for 30 years, and it is yet to happen according to any agency, any reputable agency across the globe. Now, as a result, though, of this attack, what I can tell you is there is now certainly incentive for Iran now to pursue a nuclear weapon because peaceful negotiations and being truthful through the process and trying to negotiate diplomatically with the U.S., they were then met with the attack, with a missile attack. So I do not understand the benefit from doing this whatsoever. And it just seems like we are once again trying to do the bidding of Israel. But for the first time in a few days, we have another update from Iran's supreme leader who came out and declared victory over Israel, along with saying that the U.S. gained nothing from the attack. Now, I do not know why they're declaring victory. Iran, I mean, I know why. It's a ego play, right? But Iran lost many leaders and some citizens from the attack from Israel, so I wouldn't consider that a victory. And the U.S. gaining nothing from the attack, I would generally agree with that statement. In fact, I think it just made tensions in the Middle East more dramatic, right? It escalated tensions rather than trying to solve anything. But good update here, guys. I'm actually going to have a guest on very soon to discuss the relationship between Israel and the U.S. So if you want some more detail on that and that relationship broken down a little bit more, look forward to that episode, maybe posted as early as Sunday. Now, we are going to finish here. These last two actually go hand in hand. We're going to finish with looking at some fun Gavin Newsom social media clapbacks. So we have the governor of California. And I wanted to bring some of these to you because some of you have been sending them to me on Instagram. And I'm not going to show every single one, but just some of the ones that I thought were top notch and honestly, factually true and relevant. And that's going to segue us, guys, into the political landscape and what I think the presidential landscape will look like in 2028 for the Democratic Party. So first thing we're going to talk about is Gavin Newsom's attack at different Republican-led countries, states, and their homicide rates. So the first one here we're going to talk about is Alabama. So we have Tommy Tuberville. He, guys, has said some of the craziest, most outlandish things. He is the one, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, who said, I want to turn the Pentagon into a triagon instead of a triangle. So he's unfamiliar with three-sided shapes. I do not know, but he, in reference, guys, it's all reference. Most of these homicide rate tweets or posts are going to be in reference to what was happening in LA with the immigration protests. But we have Alabama as 3 times the homicide rate of California. Its murder rate is ranked 3rd in the entire country. Stick to football, bro. So that was him clapping back at Tommy Tuberville from Alabama. And I'm going to get into if these stats are true or not in a second. Then we got a representative from Oklahoma. If you want to discuss violence, let's start with your state's murder rate, which is 40% higher than California's. So once again, we have, it looks like Representative Mullen here coming after what they were seeing with the protest in LA. Moving on to Arkansas, Sarah Huckabee Sanders here coming on Fox News and talking about what is happening in California would be impossible to happen in Arkansas. But Gavin Newsom, in response to this, said your homicide rate is literally double California's. Now, guys, bringing this all together, let's see where Alabama ultimately lands, Arkansas and Oklahoma. So Alabama's rate, so their homicide rate is about 2.5 times higher than California's rate. So not 3 times. So Newsom did engage in hyperbole a little bit, but not the way Trump does, where he says something that's 2 times is 2,000 times. So Alabama's murder rate, homicide rate is 2.5 times higher than California's. Oklahoma's rate is 41% higher than California. So Newsom actually gave them a percentage point there. And Arkansas's homicide rate is indeed double California's. So all of these homicide rate clapbacks, 100% accurate, a little bit of hyperbole with Alabama. But guys, they often, right wing will often try to, frame California as this lawless place where the most violence happens in a lot of these right-wing led states. So it's just a red herring. It's not accurate. Okay. And they also, what they'll do to kind of break down data is they'll look at gross numbers and total numbers. They won't look at per capita numbers. So that's also an easy way to manipulate the numbers when you're dealing with a state with a higher population. Now, moving on, we have another clapback moving away from the homicide rates here. We have him now responding to Speaker Mike Johnson of the House, where he said, good to know we're skipping the arrest and going straight for the 1700s style forms of punishment, a fitting threat given the GOP wants to bring our country back to the 18th century. So guys, there's a bit of hyperbole at work here, and this is Newsom responding to when Mike Johnson said that he should be tar and feathered. So, we got political violence stoked from the right, from the party that says the left wing is always stoking political violence. But here we have a Republican asking for a governor to be tar and feathered. But I guess that's acceptable. But we have moved past many of the older, conservative, mindset ideologies that I thought we were past. Those are now actually making their way back into the mainstream, which aligns perfectly, in my opinion, with this tweet. Now, remember, guys, it's also the same party who chanted for hangings of the former vice president. So I guess the tar and feathering and the political violence checks out, unfortunately. Then, last but not least, guys, we have a clapback regarding how Donald Trump Jr. is going and talking about no one being above the law and potentially arresting Governor Newsom. So Governor Newsom responded by saying promo code arrest for 15% off your Trump phone. The way, guys, society is widely accepted that we have a president who and their family who will unabashedly just hawk products on the regular is wild to me. But this is obviously a reference to that new ridiculous golden phone Trump is trying to get his MAGA loyalists to purchase. And they are also just so obsessed with arresting people nonstop before reading the law and before taking a moment to actually figure out if anyone broke the law to begin with, which is once again, guys, why we need due process, because these people do not understand the law. And if we did not have due process, they would absolutely arrest people and put them in jail for not breaking the law. But they just bloviate, they say whatever because they know there is no longer accountability to the truth. So that wraps up some of those Gavin Newsom clapbacks. I thought they were pretty accurate, pretty cleverly done, to be fair, for a political candidate that I'm not the most fond of, to be honest, on the Democratic side. But credit where credit is due when it is due. I guess that's the whole point of this saying. So guys, that last, the Gavin Newsom kind of clapbacks are going to lead us into what I'm going to finish with, which are my 2028 presidential power rankings. And it's been clear that Newsom has been trying to wiggle his way into the nominee for 2028 for quite some time now. But before I get my top five, guys, this is not my top five that I want. If you've been watching the show for a while, you know these aren't the top five I want in the order I would pick. But these are who currently, as of, we're in June of 2025, who I think is most likely to head the Democratic ticket heading into 2028. So I'm going to do reverse order. Number 5, I have Kamala Harris actually sneaking her way back into the fold. I see a lot of things on social media where it's like Kamala was right trends. She's even gone and spoken publicly a little bit about that. So I think she's gaining slight momentum with that. Also, she has name recognition as already running for office and as being vice president previously. Now I think it hurts her likelihood because she did lose already once. And you usually don't rerun if you've lost, despite what happened with Donald Trump. Now, I actually have a shocker at number 4 here, guys. I do have AOC cracking the top 5 at number 4. I did not previously think this would happen. It would be anywhere near the moment for this when I started the podcast. But guys, the numbers and the polling are starting to sway me a bit. AOC is the lowest I see her is in the top 5 in terms of popularity amongst politicians across the entire country. And what we have just seen in New York City, I think this is still a long shot, But I think as time is passing, and honestly, if Trump continues to do more crazy things, and if the economy continues to not improve for people and in fact get worse with things like tariffs, increasing gas prices due to conflicts in the Middle East, I think people are going to be more convinced to go further to the left, which, to be clear, I think is the right thing. I'm just shocked right now that I'm sitting and looking at data that has AOC right now in 2025, in my opinion, at number 4. And number 3, guys, we have Josh Shapiro. The reason I'm putting him at 3, he is a very fiery and passionate speaker. He takes after the playbook a little bit of Obama, not as good of an orator as Obama was, but he kind of takes after that playbook, and I can really see him igniting the Democratic base and doing well, for instance, in a debate format. And, if he's going around the country kind of giving speech after speech, I think that could actually play very well for him. For me, he's too centrist, but I do think he has a realistic shot of being that nominee. Now, the top 2, and number 2, we have Mayor Pete Buttigieg here at number 2. I put him in at number 2. I think he's very well spoken, He's a great communicator. He's great to social media clip and make really good 30-second content clips for him. And he's very easy to understand for the average American. And I also think he's on the money with many social issues and social policies that are in alignment with a lot of Americans. But once again, compared to what I would prefer, he's a little bit more moderate and centrist than I believe the moment calls for. And more importantly, what I think is best for the country. And at number 1, guys, you've probably been waiting for him, wondering where he'd be in my top 5, is Gavin Newsom here at number 1. The reason I have him currently at number 1 as the person most likely to be the nominee for the Democratic ticket in 2028 is he presents very well. So he's got the look. He seems to be strong and a fighter. He projects these things. He speaks well, and he is not scared to take on Trump. Remember, guys, most of the country, despite what you may hear, hates Trump. So the public loves when there are strong fighters who won't bow down to him and will fight him aggressively. He also, guys, has a large donor backing from the state of California. That often plays well in elections. I'm not a fan, guys. You can see my kind of tepid placing him at number 1, but I'm trying to be realistic here to what is happening. But he would obviously, guys, be much better than what is happening under Trump in this current administration. But he doesn't hold nearly enough of the policy positions that I think would benefit Americans. Guys, homelessness is still a huge issue in California, and he hasn't done what has been necessary to address that, for instance. So that is my top 5, who I think, once again, not who I want, but as of 2025, in the 5th spot, I have Kamala Harris. 4th spot, I have AOC. 3rd spot, I have Josh Shapiro. 2nd spot, I have Pete Buttigieg. And in 1st place currently, I have Gavin Newsom. So let me know what you guys think about those rankings in the comments. Who do you think is currently in the lead for the Democratic Party in the 2028 ticket? Maybe some VP nominees as well, a president and or a full ticket where you give me the president and the vice president as well. Also, feel free to comment on any other topics that I covered in this midweek mailbag. Now, today's vibes, guys, I'm going to leave you with this song, a great classic. I'm going to be throwing on Midnight Train to Georgia by Gladys Knight and the Pips. Thank you for watching and being part of a growing progressive community. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And if you have the time, check out some of my other episodes you can see around me. Thank you.